Hi, everyone out there. This is Corey Jewett, the Director of Athletic Communications at Gettysburg College, and I have an exciting interview to bring you today with our head men's basketball coach, BJ Dunne. Of course, you know, Coach Dunne has just wrapped up his second season at Gettysburg. However, on the side, he decided to pick up another coaching gig as the head coach of Armored Athlete, which is heading into the second round of the basketball tournament out there in Columbus, Ohio at Nationwide Arena. BJ, thanks a lot for joining us. I see the arena behind you in your background there. It looks beautiful. How are you doing out in Ohio?
You know, I'm doing all right, Corey. I feel like this is one of the safest places in the country right now, given the circumstances. We've been tested almost daily for the past month. It looks really nice out in Ohio today from my hotel window. I haven't seen the sun, and I guess it's Wednesday, so 8 days now. I haven't been outside except for a short walk to the arena. But other than that, it's been great to have sports back, and I've been really enjoying this experience. And again, feel really safe here inside this bubble.
Of course, the basketball tournament is in its seventh year of existence. We're talking about a 2014 tournament that's being played over 10 days. And it's on ESPN. So we saw BJ on the Worldwide Leader in their first game on ESPN2 over the weekend, which we'll get into that. But BJ, I wanted to touch first on the overall experience. Obviously, you hinted at the TBT. There's a lot of logistics going on at the tournament, particularly involving COVID-19 and making sure you guys stay in the bubble. Talk a little bit about the experience overall, interacting with the teams and players, and also how the tournament is dealing with the pandemic.
Yeah, I think it's been really impressive what the TBT has been able to do to pull this tournament off. And, they've really kind of set that standard and the model for other professional leagues. And then I even think for college athletics to return. So, prior to arrival, we all had to test negative twice. Once we arrived, we received another COVID test. We were then quarantined in our room for 24 hours. All meals were delivered to our room. Once the entire team tested negative, we were allowed to move throughout the hotel, but we can only interact with our team. So there's limited interaction with other players here, TBT staff. The only people you can really spend time with are your team, which, makes for a really unique experience for a bunch of guys who've never played together, really know each other. It almost forces those, to expedite that relationship process that's going to be really necessary to win a tournament like this. While we're here, when you're in the hallway and going to practice, you're wearing a mask. We have a daily test around like 9:30 in the morning. We get temperature checks every time we go into practice. And before we practice, the practice floor and equipment are completely detoxed. So sometimes the floor is pretty slick. So we haven't really been able to play live quite a bit because of all the chemicals that they're using on the floor. Again, to make sure that it's been safety first here. Throughout the day, you're spending a lot of time in your hotel room, but we also have a team room that our guys have access to throughout the day. They like to play cards. It has a full kitchen. So, we get all our meals on a separate floor. Some of our guys will eat in the team room, play video games. We have 2-hour practice daily, and then we usually will meet for about 2 hours to talk about schemes on both sides of the floor. And for me, that's been really just the most rewarding, is just like really listening to these guys and asking a lot of questions for what, they think is going to be the best way for us to go about winning on both ends of the floor. So I'm soaking it all in. We have a really great group of guys. It's not the NBA bubble with, the golf and the barber shop and the DJs and, all the bells and whistles, but, there's enough here to, keep you entertained for sure throughout the day.
And of course, you have a talented roster of players. It's been fun to see the rosters and hear the commentators talk about some of these guys, some that have NBA experience. A lot of them have international experience and G League experience as well. And you've got a talented roster as well. You guys put up 98 points in the first game against Power of the Paw, the Clemson alumni, which is the high so far in the TBT this season, one of the highest scores in TBT history too. What's it been like coaching some of these guys coming from, pretty prominent Division I programs?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible. The way practice kind of operates is you really just, these guys have become a pro for a reason. And it's not just like when you think about professional players, it's like, oh my God, they're so talented. It's it's really their work ethic and their day-to-day approach. I mean, these guys come into the gym and they have their own routine, whether that's, their warm up, whether that's, their ball handling, shooting. So we kind of really, I just allow them to kind of do their thing, get their mind right. And then in practice, I usually get about, 30, 40 minutes, and it's, kind of inputting some schemes on both sides of the floor. But a lot of that's really collaboration. I think that's the main key here. I mean, these guys have played at the highest level. They've played so much basketball. They've been coached by some of the best coaches in the world. They know so much. Like, we kind of talk about, okay, we could do this, we could do that. Let's think through it. You hear from them, and then we go out and execute it. There's not a ton of live coaching, very minimal by me, which is different. In practice, I mean, these guys are doing majority of the coaching, and they're really taking each other through it, things that they think that are going to work the best. So that's been different, but it's been really just refreshing. Like, you talk about something and we just go out and execute it. And then really just to see like the work ethic. I sent, a couple of our guys a video that our guys sent me yesterday. They put in our group chat. I mean, when they finished 2-hour practice and the entire team is running the stairs in the hallway, like that's just like the extra work that they do. And there's a reason, again, why these guys are professional players. Like, we can't stress that enough. They, in day one, in 10 minutes, we put in 8 different things, and they can, they pick up those concepts, they can go execute it. You can, constantly change things defensively. There's a lot of input there. So it's been a lot of fun to just coach these guys, like high level guys who, have a strong passion for winning. In an event like this, when you have never played together as a team, you really need that collaboration and that commitment to really playing hard on both ends of the floor, because the teams that typically do, advance pretty deep in a tournament like this.
And of course, in that opening game, efficiency was the name of the game plan, I would say, putting up 98 points, as I mentioned, 13 3-pointers, 57% from the field, I think is what the team shot.
Mm-hmm.
And you got 49 points out of your guard spots, and Scott Machado and John Robertson too. Talk about how exhilarating that was to get that opening round win in the way you guys did.
Yeah, you just had no idea, how we were going to come out. You always hope, man, we're going to come out and make shots, but, it hasn't been live basketball since March. And we weren't able to play live. And we have 8 guys on the roster, so we go 5-on-5. Myself and our GM have to step in. And, I'm a noon hoop guy now. There's not much that I can do to really make us better in practice with my playing ability. But and with the floor being slick, so that was the first time we really played live. So everything that we were doing was, in breakdown stuff, 3-on-0, 4-on-0, 5-on-0 skeleton work. But I think, what we really liked was, the spacing that we could generate on the floor, the pace, being able to get that ball side to side was going to be really important for us. And, Scott and John are really, really talented. I mean, Scott has had several stints in the NBA. In my opinion, he should be in the NBA bubble right now. Like, the team should have picked him up. John just set the 3-point record in Australia. And there's some really great guards over there. Like, Scott was the runner-up to the MVP. Bryce Cotton, former player at Providence, was the MVP. And then you have John, who set the NBA, the record for 3-point field goal makes. Like, there's some really great players over there. And they just came out and we made shots. And when you see that thing go in, I think our confidence was through the roof. And, we continue to share the basketball, which is the name of the game, and make those guys defend.
Yeah, and of course, anybody that was watching the broadcast could hear you as well from the sideline, giving the guys encouragement, chirping about the officials and the calls they were making or weren't making too. So I know you were doing your job on the sideline. And of course, your reward for the win is to face the number 2 seed, Overseas Elite, which is a 4-time TBT champion, and faces none other than Joe Johnson, the 7-time NBA All-Star, who averaged 16 points per game over his illustrious career. Talk about the team's upcoming game, which is tomorrow on Thursday, July 9th at 4 p.m. on the worldwide leader ESPN.
Yeah, we're definitely excited about this game. Overseas Elite has been that's the standard. The model program in the basketball tournament. They've won this 4 times. Last year was the first time they've lost. I think the record is like 29-1 over the 5 years of them playing in this thing. For me, game planning against Joe Johnson has been it's been really cool. I mean, I never thought I'd be game planning against an NBA All-Star. It's going to pose its own challenges. But it's something that these guys are up for the task. If you're going to win this event, you're going to have to beat these guys at some point throughout this event. So, might as well get it out of the way early. And I know when our bracket got released, we did feel confident with this matchup considering we had an opportunity to play. And the roster is very different from years past. It doesn't mean that, they're not as talented. I think they're just as talented. But, there is something to be said about having some type of continuity and that familiarity with players. And, not having a game, not really having a ton of time to practice with one game under our belt and then more time to kind of implement schemes. We feel pretty good going in. We know we're going to have to play, a near perfect game for 36 minutes on both ends of the floor. And we have some things that we feel like that we can do to kind of, muck the game up a little bit and frustrate these guys. And, Joe is a big isolation player. So doing some things to kind of remove his ability to isolate and milk that clock, wherever he wants to catch it from that, mid post or low post or, top of key isolation stuff. And those are things that, these pros are so great with. Like, we just don't see that stuff at the D3 level, like the isolations. So just kind of hearing from them about some of their ideas of how we can stop it and then ways that we can change defenses throughout the game to keep making them adjust to us is going to be key.
And of course, the TBT tournament setup is 4 9-minute quarters. However, there's an interesting twist at the end of these games with an untimed elim ending, which anybody that saw the NBA All-Star Game saw that this year. And we've seen some interesting finishes in the TBT so far. So, BJ, for our viewers at home that might not know what the elim ending is, can you explain that to us?
Yeah, so it's the most stressful ending in sports. So, once there's the first stoppage of play under 4 minutes, the team that's leading, you add +8 to their score, and that's the target score. So if the score is 72-70, the target score would be 80. So the team leading would only need 8 points for the victory. The team that's behind would need 10. The reason for that, that they created this elim ending is to get rid of, like, with a close game, that constant fouling. I think the guy who created the elim ending was a math professor, and he realized that only 3% of the time actually that fouling resulted in a win for the team coming from behind, which is a super low percentage. And it's really exciting. I think some teams kind of get away from what they were doing previously. Like, they're just trying to fire threes and end the game really quick, which allows some teams to make a run and come back. The key is just to kind of stay steady. We've talked about scripting it a little bit. We put in some new quick hits that we felt like would be really good in the elim ending to get the ball in the right guy's hands. But man, when Bostic hits that corner three, you breathe a sigh of relief because, it's next basket wins. It's what you were, doing when you were playing on the park growing up. And, it's a pretty cool concept that, I think other leagues are going to start to take on.
Yeah, I'm sure the stress level goes up for the coach on the sideline as your players try to figure out how to get those points for sure. As you said, you guys came out with a victory, and we've seen that kind of even the playing field a little bit with some of these early games. I think, Sideline Cancers pulled off a couple upsets in the TBT, and we've seen some other upsets out there too. So hopefully Armored Athlete can do the same thing and take down the 4-time TBT champions overseas elite Thursday afternoon. Now, BJ, since you're in Ohio, obviously things have been going forward at Gettysburg, and we recently had the announcement about fall sports competition come out yesterday. Fall sports competition is suspended, and that also could potentially impact the winter sports as well. So what was your initial reaction to that announcement? And, you being in TBT, experiencing how sports competition is still going forward, what are some things that you might be able to bring back to Gettysburg and the Centennial Conference to help us move forward and ensure we have sports at some point this academic year?
I think there was, a couple just different emotions going through. I think, it's hard not to feel disappointed at first, for, the student athletes and having an opportunity to compete. But I think suspension is that key word, which offers that glimmer of hope and some real optimism that with an evaluation period, we may be able to return to play at the end of September and play conference games. And with an evaluation period over, for our winter sports, maybe we start in October, maybe we start a little later, or maybe we start in January and play conference games, and that's 18 games, and you still have, national tournaments. I think the NCAA did announce yesterday that they plan to have the NCAA tournaments the same that they had always planned, which that's a positive. So, we discussed it with our team, and I think our guys kind of felt the same way. I mean, there's some of that unknown, and some guys may have to make some difficult decisions, especially our seniors wanting to ensure that they get to play a full year. Potentials of blanket waivers are still out there too. So, but I think that optimism is real, and we talk a lot about within our program. Like we can handle anything together. Adversity is going to hit. There's so many life lessons that are thrown at student athletes, and this group of students right now, and in particular our student athletes, I mean, they're learning a great deal about themselves, and they're handling a lot that a lot of student athletes prior I certainly didn't have to go through when I was in college. And that's only going to prepare them for the better upon graduation. And we as coaches can provide an outlet, but we as student athletes, our athletic department has to be leaders on campus, and the way we hold ourselves and each other accountability if we really want to return to sports. And that's really what my experience here has been like. If I really leading up to this event, I had to take that, the quarantine suggestions really seriously. Everywhere you go, you're wearing a mask. I mean, I'm carrying hand sanitizer with me every place I go in the bubble, knowing that every single person in this bubble has tested negative. I'm still, we all still wear a mask. We're still carrying hand sanitizer. We're still social distancing. We're doing all of the safety precautions because we know that, all it could take is one positive. For this run and this experience to be over. And I think that's going to be really key, when our student athletes go back on campus is, I know in athletics, we're going to do everything possible to ensure that the safety of our student athletes, that we can compete. And our student athletes, when they go back to the other side of campus, they have to make sure that their friends and the rest of the student body is taking this as seriously. We're certainly not far from over, with COVID, and it's a real threat. I think sometimes, we can forget some of those things. It's easy to get bored. It's easy to want to move on, but it's not as much about how it impacts us as how it could impact other people. And then just some of the, the tools that I've seen here that have worked are, obviously the mask, the hand sanitizer. We take a daily survey that's been really effective. It's allowed, the doctors and training staff, here to be able to flag certain, participants if they're experiencing any type of symptoms, potentially holding them out for the day, doing some type of other testing, or we get temperature checks every single time we go through, go into practice, and that allows them to see like has someone's temperature kind of been the same or has it skyrocketed. So and then just the way that they've cleaned all the equipment, the courts, the basketballs. And they've just taken it really seriously. And obviously this is a confined period. It's only 2 weeks, whereas the season's going to be a lot longer, and you almost have to look at it like every single day. We have to be perfect if we really want sports to come back. So, I still believe that it's going to happen. I think there's a chance, and we're using this opportunity to continue to grow as people, to continue to grow as a team, and we're going to get through this like we get through everything. Within our program, we're going to do it together.
Exactly. There's a lot of logistical details that need worked out following yesterday's announcement, and the college and athletic department, of course, are working through those while also conferring with the NCAA, state and local guidelines and federal guidelines as well. So a lot of questions that we still have, but we're working through that and, trying to make the most out of the situation and bring back sports. But like you said, let's say collective accountability on the part of all the participants involved. So, BJ, that's all the questions I had for you. I know you got to prepare for Overseas Elite and ISO Joe here coming up. So I want to wish you the best of luck. You've definitely got a lot of fans in Gettysburg. You have the orange and blue backing you, and I think you've got a lot of fans at Division III as well. I've seen quite a few tweets out there supporting you as the head coach representing Division III. So, again, Armored Athlete taking on Overseas Elite on Thursday, July 9th at 4 p.m. on ESPN. Coach Dunne will lead his team, hopefully to victory, and march on in the TBT.